Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Elia Homestead. I'm so glad that you joined me here today. I'm hoping that we can have a cup of coffee and talk about something that not a lot of homemakers want to talk about, which is money. And funny enough, money affects our households almost more than anything else. This isn't going to be a video on how to make more money, but rather some helpful pieces that I've picked up in my almost 20 years of tending to a home when it comes to managing the money. This can be done really well or really poorly, but one thing that I've learned is that you either manage your money or your money manages you. And as much as I really don't like managing the money in our home, one thing I like even worse is when the money is managed poorly and it goes places without you even realizing where it's gone, or it doesn't do the things that you need it to do. There's not enough of it here. There's too much here. It can go all kinds of different places in all kinds of different ways. And we've sort of created a system that works for our home that I want to share with you. Maybe it'll be helpful to you. Maybe you could teach me some things. So put comments in below the video if you have some helpful tips that you have picked up along the way. But this is sort of our process for managing our money and how that kind of came to be. I asked Stuart what I should remind you of on this video, and he made such a great point, which was money comes down to principles, not just methods. So I'm going to be sharing with you the methods that we use to manage our money, but the principles are the most important thing because there are endless methods that you can use for these same principles. Neither Stuart or I grew up with a lot of money. And so as we got married and as we came into adulthood, money management was something that we sort of had to learn as we went along, because if we dug really deep into our recessed memories, there weren't a lot of positive experiences with money. In fact, there were almost none. And so I think this is actually important to take into account, is to just sort of get an idea of where you're at with your money, because it's a flip in thinking that money doesn't have to be a negative thing and that managing money doesn't have to be this thing that leaves you in tears and totally stressed out, which was something that we had to learn early on in our married life. So first step would be to just really assess where you're at with your money right now. And I know this seems like lame advice, but really do communicate. If you're managing your money with somebody else, you really do need to communicate that with them and say, hey, I'm coming to this. I'm already sort of ripe to be a little bit frustrated by it or to be a little bit sad by it because of these experiences that I'm bringing into the home. So that's kind of the groundwork, laying level. Now, you can skip ahead if you want to just get to the methods of how we manage our money, but I think it's actually really important to tell you how we got here. A big thank you to Birch Living for sponsoring today's video. They're having a Memorial Day sale right now, so you can shop your new mattress, get 2 free pillows, and get 27% off by using my exclusive code BirchPartner27. I'm going to put a link right below the video. But look, we put a lot of hard work into balancing our budgets today and paying all of our bills. Now is our chance to rest and relax on our new mattresses. Birch is going to offer you a 100-night sleep trial. That is over 3 months, so that you can make sure you absolutely love your new mattress. And if you live in the United States, they're also going to offer you removal of your old mattress and setup of your new Birch mattress. Now, I chose Birch because they don't have any polyurethane foams or chemicals or anything weird, no fiberglass, and instead are made with 100% organic wool. That makes a big difference to me. Not too soft, not too squishy, free of chemicals. I sleep so good on this. I know you will too. If you are in the market for a new mattress, make sure you shop Birch's Memorial Day sale by just using my code BirchPartner27. There's a link below the video. So, as I've shared many times before, when we first got married, Stuart and I made very little money. We were both working minimum wage jobs. and didn't really have a major plan. Stuart went back to school when we were married. We had a baby 18 months after we got married, when we still had these, minimum wage jobs. And so we didn't come to our marriage with a lot of money. We didn't come bringing a lot of knowledge with how to manage money. And so we were learning a lot of these things on the fly. And somebody in our church, in passing, when we were going through a really particularly not monetarily fruitful time early on in our marriage, somebody in our church gave me a copy, their used copy of Dave Ramsey's. It was called The Financial Peace. And this is like a workbook when you go through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace class and you're like writing in actual numbers and everything. And so it was already used, but I was able to read the articles and take the principles and sort of write out my own little worksheets and copies and stuff. And going through that book really fundamentally changed how we thought about money, because we realized whether we had a little bit or we had a lot, we still had to learn the skills of money management. So I think that Dave Ramsey does a really great job of that, and we still follow a lot of his principles. For example, things like consumer debts. We've never followed these things perfectly, and I don't think we followed his principles with getting into our house. But there were so many methods there that we found to be helpful. I'll get into some of those that we still use in a little bit, but it was through this time of not having money and really having to just cut out so many things that we thought were essential, going through periods of time where your grocery budget is just minimal. And, I used to take the kids, Owen and Georgia were really little at this stage, and I would take them to the grocery store just for something to do. And I'd fill the cart with all kinds of things that I wanted to buy. And then I would go back through the grocery store and put everything back. But it sort of just gave me that sensation of like, if I could, then this is what I would buy. But that being said, Stuart and I went through that financial peace sort of model together. And so we were on the same page. And this goes back to communicating that with the person that you're managing the money with. So after that, it is very helpful to figure out whose job it's going to be to manage the money. This is going to be different for your family. Everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. We've done it differently through the years. There have been times when I've just thrown up my hands and I said, you do it. And there are times when I've done it almost exclusively. And then there are times when we've done it together. So when you decide, it doesn't have to be something that is forever, but rather for a season, it works better for you to do it, for me to do it, for us to do it together, however that looks for you. But somebody needs to have that job. Somebody needs to be assigned that work so that it doesn't slip through the cracks. The only thing worse than having to sit down and pay bills is not doing it and then having to catch up and dig yourself out of that hole. So it needs to be on somebody's calendar in somebody's book, which I suppose we are sort of getting into the method now. So that's kind of how we got here. We've gone through times of need. We've gone through times of a little bit more freedom. We've gone through mostly just the middle ground that lies between those two things. But whether we have a lot or whether we have little, this is still the system that we use to manage that in our home. So everybody knows when you're an adult, you get mail, you get bills, you get property tax statements and all kinds of unfun things. So to organize that, I have a very simple little cubby that says mail in. Keep this in the office. So whoever gets the mail gets it and puts it in here. That is step one. Step two is that once a week, I have a scheduled time because I am now the one who does this for this season. I will sit down with this mail-in box once per week. I grab all of the new mail out, all the bills, all the weird paperwork that needs to be dealt with, such as I just sat down and did our tab renewals for our cars the other day. So just all that funky stuff, that clerical stuff. I take it all out. I sort through it. Some of it just needs to be filed away. Some of it is a bill that needs to be paid. Some of it's phone calls that I need to make. I just sort of throw away the trash, get things organized a little bit. Once a week, I sit down and I do that, and I make sure that all bills are paid. When I pay a bill, I mark on it. I just say paid, check number this, confirmation number this, here's the date I did it, here's who I spoke to, etc. And then that gets filed away. So I have to do this weekly. It's very important for me to keep my eye on things. So that's the system that we use for managing new mail, new bills. Now, once those bills are paid, they get put into this receipts thing, which is where we just keep all of our receipts, all of our paid bills, so that if something happens, I can go back and I can account for it. This part is a really simple system. Now, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to do that. So we still, even now, 16 years later, rely on a lot of Dave Ramsey's principles for money management. And one piece that we have found to be really, really helpful is his app called the EveryDollar app. It connects automatically with your bank to an app on your phone. And a few times a week, I would say probably 3 times a week, I open the app, I see all the new transactions, and I categorize them within our set budget. So the EveryDollar app walks you through how much of your budget you should be spending on your housing, gas, transportation, insurance, groceries. I know this isn't the most beautiful piece of tending to your home, but when the homemaker can look back on her paperwork, her bills, her accounting, and all of that is organized, there's no fires to put out, that is really beautiful. And this app, which you create your own budget within, and every month that budget just resets itself so you can make sure that you got your payroll, that you don't have any subscriptions going out that you don't want, these sorts of things, has been really helpful for us. Either one of us can log in and we can see the account, see the transactions. So then, for example, if it's 10 days before the end of the month and we want to go get Thai food, we can open up the app and we can say, oh, look, we still have $200 left in our entertainment budget. So yeah, we can go get Thai food and we don't have to have any guilt about that because we know we've allocated this amount for these activities. Now, again, there are times when you are going to have to hack those off and maybe there is no entertainment budget. We've been there too. But the point is that the app will walk you through setting your budget based on how much money you're bringing in, and just sort of some general good practice principles for managing and organizing your budget. Once you get your weekly bill management and bill paying system set, you've communicated sort of your expectations and ideals when it comes to managing your money in your home. You have set the time aside to do that every week. You set up a budget that is balanced and is actually reflective of how much money you have. You've learned how to manage that by tracking your transactions. Then comes more of the fun stuff. And look, money is a very complicated conversation, and I'm not going to get into things like saving for retirement or IRAs today or anything like that. But in my mind, I have broken that down to happen after all of those other things are done. So one of the things that we really like to do to manage our money well is to set up auto saving things. So we do have auto, what's the word? When it comes out of your account automatically, auto transfers that do go to our retirement, auto transfers that do go to a savings account. Again, these are all Dave Ramsey principles that we learned a very long time ago that we are still using. So the very first principle that he has you do is put $1,000 into your checking account. And when I first read that principle, I thought, you're out of your mind. I am never going to have $1,000 that I could ever have in an account. But I started to sell things I sold little kitchen things that I didn't use anymore. I started to bake bread to make a little bit of extra money. I put ads on my new blog, which was new back then. And I think I made like $75, but just slowly and surely we did build up that $1,000. The next principle was that you have 3 months living expenses in a savings account. And again, I just thought, you're out of your mind, Dave. What are you talking about? That's going to be impossible. But over the course of time and years and some good tax returns later, we were able to set that money aside. And so these are small little principles. He does a much deeper dive on why we do these things. But I'll tell you what, just that first baby step, as he calls it, that $1,000 in your account, when $1,000 in your checking account becomes your zero, that $1,000 has saved us so many times. When some sort of an emergency comes up and we need a little bit of extra money, when I actually accidentally manage things wrong and there's not as much in there as I thought that there would be, it just sort of creates this buffer. So you can Google these, you can look them up anywhere. It's just the baby steps, the debt snowball, all of those sorts of things. And, you and your spouse are going to have to get on the same page when it comes to that, just like you're going to have to get on the same page of having how your bank accounts are set up. So that is a money management piece. Stuart and I have always had our bank account together. All of the money is our money. We earn it together and we spend it together. And so that has kept managing quite easy because we're really only managing a checking account and a savings account. If I can leave you with a principle from today's video, it would just be, this is how we do our method for money management. There are lots of methods that you can do, lots of great apps and programs out there to help you. But I think the important piece for the homemaker is that money is not just a source of anger and frustration and sadness. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't manage it well. And I'll tell you what, when I think about the times when I felt most achieved as a homemaker, a lot of them have to do with managing the money well. And that doesn't mean we had a lot. The times when we had very little and we took the whole paycheck out in cash and we put it in the cash envelope. So I knew I could not go over this gas amount. I could not go over this grocery amount. There was almost an elation that came from that discipline and that skill development. So if you're in one of those places right now, don't be discouraged, because even in that, money doesn't have to be this sad, frustrating, complicated, tangled piece of your life. Whether you have a lot of dollars or not as many dollars, it does come down to the money management piece of that. Again, there are lots of systems that can teach you how to manage that. Dave Ramsey, I'm so grateful for so many of the things that we learned from him. Even though now we don't take them all, it set kind of this foundation for, we are going to control our money. Our money is not going to control us. And when you control your money, you're not subject to those massive money blow-ups of, fill in the blank. I'm sure many of you have had experiences like that, just like we have. So this is how we manage our money. I'm going to put some links to resources that I think you'll find helpful below the video. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you have some tips or some advice that you have found helpful in terms of money management as a homemaker. But I think this is one of those arenas, like, look, it's not as beautiful as window boxes and planting flowers and making beautiful food, but when your financial health in your home is healthy and vibrant and kept for and tended to well, there is such a wonderful sense of pride that comes from that as the homemaker. And it's incredible how many fires you can keep from coming when you do tend to your money well. So I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope that our very simple system and our very simple resources will be a blessing to you in your home. Cheers.